Hello. Um, I wanted to just break down in a little video one of the most important concepts that I've come across in my work, and that is the ability to get out of the story. Um, what I mean by this is the ability to shut down the words inside of the mind and go directly to the experience, to the sensation of what is happening inside of the rest of the body instead of what is happening up here inside the mind. And in order to really understand this concept, first we have to recognize that your mind is not your brain in the way that we actually understand it. When you're being formed in the uterus, your heart is the first thing that forms inside of the neural tissue, and the neural tissue forms inside of the chest. The top becomes the brain, the bottom becomes the intestines. And this is why we hear such things as belly brain or gut instinct or go with your gut. It's because there's instinctive knowledge inside of these neural tissues that your intestines are, which, by the way, actually brings up a side note of being very conscientious of what you eat, because you're literally putting food that could be either wholesome and filling and healthy for your belly brain or, not. And that right there, it really starts bringing into perspective that when we're inside of the words, when we're inside of the story in our head, that we can't pay attention to what's happening underneath all of that. And when we start recognizing that when your brain is not your brain in the way that you understand it, because it's connected into your entire nervous system and they all have different ways of thinking, that's when we start to recognize that what we have been trained to do is stay inside of the brain, stay inside of the words. The words literally limit us away from the sensation because let's just look at a small example of, say, for instance, that you're getting into a fight with somebody. You're angry. You want to attack that person. You're verbally, throwing jabs back and forth at each other. That's all in the words. There's a story around that. There's a justification for you to be yelling insults at that person, to direct that anger at that person, and it's all in the words. But if we drop those words and we go right into the feeling, we'll recognize one of two things. Either this feels really good, I really enjoy this, this is wholesome, this is filling, it makes me feel more than I was before, or it doesn't feel good, this is draining, it's vampiristic, it's pulling the energy out of me and it feels rotten, I don't like it. And when we come down to these two things, we can recognize some very simple concepts that the words hide the damage that we're doing to ourselves internally. When we engage in feeling something that doesn't feel good, we are damaging ourselves on that level. We are creating scar tissue. There's lack of flow. There's lack of movement through there. Meaning when you are feeling anger, when you are feeling shame, when you are feeling guilt, when you're feeling sadness, there is always a physical sensation to do with it. That worry, that anxiety, it's like the butterflies in the stomach. That anger, it's like a hot burning ball of inside of the abdomen. Grief, it's like a raw wound inside the chest and the throat. These are very physical sensations. And we just say, I'm sad because of this, and this is just a byproduct of being sad. Well, no, it's physically damaging you. And when you engage in feeling that emotion without going in and recognizing that I don't like the way that this feels, and then bringing in what you do want to feel in there, it just starts to fester. And so this is how we end up with little frozen bits of time. Say, for instance, that you had a trauma in the past, and it was 10, 15 years ago, yet you're here right now. This timeline, there's a 15-year difference, and yet you can still feel the emotions of that trauma right now just by thinking about it. And that's because we're ignoring everything by staying inside of the mind. We're justifying why the way we feel that way. And when we can start ignoring the mind noise, start ignoring the story that's behind all of these justifications and go into, does this feel good or does this not? This really revolutionizes the way that we can interact inside the body. It takes the ego out of the way. It takes the need to be right out of the way. And it goes into growth. It goes into activation, evolution, community. It goes into learning together. And that's what's really important. There's so much craziness on this planet right now. And a lot of the craziest emotions that are out there that are doing the most damage have the best of intentions. And this is where we really need to step up with our discernment. Does it feel good or does it not? This is the telling fruit of all of everything coming up. By their fruits you shall know them. And that is hands down the easiest way to look into if it's wholesome or not. So thank you for staying with me for this one. Bye bye.